The ultimatum, the silence in the vast chamber, was broken only by the soft hum of translation devices working overtime. Ambassador Alina Torres stood at the center of the Galactic Council's main hall, surrounded by representatives from 300 different worlds. Above her, the massive dome showed the swirling colors of distant galaxies, a reminder of the Council's reach across the stars. High Regent Vextar, leader of the Council for over 2 centuries, leaned forward on his crystalline throne. His species, the Zephyrians, had ruled the galactic government since its formation. Their blue-tinted skin seemed to glow under the chamber's lights, and their forearms moved with practiced authority. Ambassador, Torres Vextar's voice echoed through the hall, each word carefully measured. Your species has been observed for exactly 100 Earth years. We have watched your expansion, your technology, your social structures. The time has come for Earth to accept its place in the galactic order. Alina kept her expression neutral, though inside she felt her heart racing. She had prepared for this moment her entire career. I'm listening, High Regent. The council member from Altera Prime, a reptilian creature called Seth, hissed softly. The human experiment in democracy has gone too far. Your people make decisions. Through chaos and emotion, this cannot be allowed to spread. Another council member, the insectoid Queen Zyra from the Hive Worlds, clicked her mandibles in agreement. Dangerous ideas must be contained. Order must be maintained. Vextar stood, his 4 arms spreading wide in a gesture of finality. The Galactic Council offers Earth membership under our guidance. You will dissolve your current governance. You will accept Council oversight of all decisions. You will cease your expansion beyond your current 12 colonies. This is not a request. Alina had expected this, but hearing it spoken aloud still sent a chill down her spine. And if Earth refuses? The chamber erupted in sounds of disbelief. No species had ever asked that question before. Most civilizations either accepted Council authority immediately or were never given the choice at all. Vextar's expression darkened. Then Earth will learn why 400 civilizations chose cooperation over conflict. Our combined fleets number over 100,000 ships. Our weapons can crack planets. Our armies have never known defeat. Alina nodded slowly, as if considering the threat carefully. I understand the Council's position. How long do we have to consider your generous offer? 72 hours, Vextar replied. Not one moment longer. As Alina walked back through the great doors of the council chamber, she allowed herself a small smile. The council had just made their first mistake. They had given humanity time to respond. Her ship, the diplomatic vessel Harmony, was waiting at the station's docking bay. As soon as she was aboard, Alina activated the secure communication system that connected her directly to Earth's leadership. They took the bait, she said, to the figure that appeared on her screen. Admiral Marcus Kane, head of Earth's defense forces, nodded grimly from his command center hidden deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. 72 hours, Kane asked. Exactly as we predicted, Alina confirmed. They think they're being generous by giving us time to be afraid. Kane's weathered face showed the hint of a smile. The Admiral was 63 years old and had spent his entire adult life preparing for this day. Time to activate Project Silent Thunder. Across Earth and its 12 colonies, a transformation began that the galaxy had never seen before. In hidden shipyards built inside asteroids, construction lights flickered on secret bases scattered. Throughout the outer planets, crews began preparing vessels that had been decades in the making. Dr. Sarah Chen stood in the main laboratory of Titan Station, watching as her life's work finally came online. The quantum communication array she had designed could send messages instantly across any distance, completely undetectable by Council technology. "All networks are active," she reported to Admiral Kane. "We can reach every human settlement simultaneously, and they can't intercept or block us." Kane nodded. "Send the activation codes." Within minutes, the message reached every human world. In the colonies, people had been living normal lives just moments before. Now they understood that everything was about to change. Captain James Mitchell received his orders while commanding a routine cargo run between Mars and Europa. His ship, the civilian vessel New Horizon, suddenly revealed its true nature as hidden. Armor plating slid into place and weapon systems came online. "All civilian vessels, this is command," came Admiral Kane's voice over the secure channel. "Phase 1 is now active. Report to designated coordinates." Across human space, similar transformations were taking place. Mining ships revealed themselves as disguised warships. Research stations activated defensive systems that had been built into their very foundations. Even passenger liners showed their hidden military capabilities. The Council had intelligence networks throughout human space, but they had been watching for traditional military preparations. They had looked for the signs they understood: massed fleets, fortified positions, obvious military buildups. Instead, humanity had hidden their true strength in plain sight. On the Council world of St. Velis, Intelligence Director Korth was reviewing reports with growing confusion. His species, the Mentari, were known throughout the galaxy for their analytical abilities. Their 4 eyes could process information faster than most computers. "The humans are not responding as expected," he reported to High Regent Vexter. "Surveillance shows no military mobilization, no panic, no desperate diplomatic attempts to negotiate." Vexter's confidence remained unshaken. "Fear takes time to process. They will see reason." But on Earth, fear was the last thing on anyone's mind. In the underground command center, Admiral Kane stood before a display showing the true scope of humanity's preparations. What the Council had missed was that humans had been preparing for this confrontation since their first contact with galactic civilization 100 years ago. "Phase 2 is ready for implementation," reported Commander Lisa Park, Kane's chief of staff. "All allied species are standing by." The Council's intelligence had another blind spot. They had catalogued the species. They controlled the species they had conquered and the species they considered threats. What they had never bothered to track were the species they considered irrelevant. For decades, human explorers, traders, and diplomats had been making contact with civilizations the Council barely acknowledged. Species with small populations, limited technology, or resources the Council didn't want. The galaxy was full of such civilizations, and humanity had been quietly building relationships with all of them. Alina Torres had spent 20 years of her career not as a diplomat to the Council, but as an ambassador to these forgotten peoples. She had learned their languages, understood their cultures, and most importantly, she had listened to their dreams. The Curran were a peaceful species, whose homeworld had been strip-mined by Council contractors. The Vossath were brilliant engineers, whose technology had been seized and redistributed to Council member worlds. The Nexari were philosophers whose ideas about freedom had been banned throughout Council space. None of them were strong enough to challenge the Council alone. But together, with humanity's help, they represented something the galaxy had not seen in centuries. Hope. As the 72-hour deadline approached, The Council prepared for humanity's surrender. Fleet Admiral Torvin of the Council Navy assembled a demonstration force of 10,000 ships, enough to intimidate any world into submission. "This should be sufficient," Torvin reported to the High Regent. "The humans will see our strength and surrender immediately." But in the Titan system, Admiral Kane was making final preparations for a very different kind of demonstration. The ships emerging from hidden bases and asteroid fields were unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. They moved in perfect coordination, their hulls gleaming with armor that seemed to absorb light itself. "All ships report ready," came the voice of Captain Mitchell from the flagship Defiance. "Operation Silent Thunder is go." Alina Torres, now back on Earth, stood in the Council communication chamber. The High Regent's image filled the screen, his 4 arms folded in a gesture of absolute authority. "Time is up," Ambassador Vextar announced. "What is Earth's decision?" Alina looked directly into the alien's eyes, her voice calm and steady. "Earth's answer is no. We will not surrender our freedom. We will not abandon our principles. And we will not submit to your authority. Asterisk." The silence that followed was absolute. In 4 centuries of Council rule, no species had ever refused their ultimatum so directly. Vextar's composure cracked slightly. "Then you have chosen destruction. Our fleets are already moving to your system. You have 48 hours to reconsider before we arrive." Alina smiled. "High Regent, I think you misunderstand something fundamental about humanity. We don't choose destruction. We choose to build something better." The communication ended, leaving Vextar staring at a blank screen. Around him, Council members buzzed with excitement and concern. Never had they encountered such defiance. But in space, the true scope of Earth's response was becoming clear. The Council's intelligence networks, so carefully maintained, had completely missed the largest military build-up in galactic history. Admiral Kane stood on the bridge of the command ship Humanity's Dawn, watching as the defensive fleet took its positions. 2,000 ships of entirely new design, carrying weapons and shields that incorporated technology from dozens of different civilizations. "Sir," reported Dr. Chen from the science station, "all quantum communication networks are active. Every allied world is connected and ready." Kane nodded. The Council thought they were dealing with one small, isolated species. They were about to learn that humanity had spent a century turning the galaxy's forgotten peoples into a network of allies. As the Council's demonstration fleet approached Earth's solar system, they expected to find a terrified world ready to surrender. Instead, they found something that had not existed in the galaxy for over 400 years. A united coalition of free peoples, ready to stand together against tyranny. The Council had made their threat. Now Earth was about to deliver their message. Asterisk, the message fleet Admiral Torvin stood on the bridge of his flagship, the massive dreadnought Dominion, as it led the Council's demonstration force toward Earth's solar system. 10,000 ships followed in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with the authority of 4 centuries of galactic rule. "Emergence in 30 seconds, announced his navigation officer. Torvin had commanded Council fleets for over 50 years, and he had never seen a species that did not immediately surrender when faced with such overwhelming force. The stars shifted as the fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system. Torvin expected to find empty space, perhaps a few desperate human ships trying to evacuate their leaders. Instead, his tactical displays, lit up with contact signatures unlike anything he had ever seen. "Admiral," his sensor operator called out, voice filled with disbelief. I'm reading massive energy signatures throughout the system, multiple ship formations, unknown configurations. Torvin stared at the display, where he expected to find scattered human resistance. He saw organized defensive positions, ships he didn't recognize, in formations that made no tactical sense according to Council military doctrine. Identification, he demanded. Working, sir. I'm detecting. This can't be right. I'm reading ship signatures from over 200 different species. Most of them aren't even in our databases. At that moment, Torvin received a communication request. Not from Earth's government, as he expected, but from a ship he had never seen before. The vessel that appeared on his screen was beautiful in a way that Council warships never were, its hull decorated with symbols from dozens of different worlds. A human woman appeared on the communication channel. Admiral Kane had decided that Alina Torres should deliver Earth's message personally. Fleet Admiral Torvin, Alina said, her voice carrying across space to reach the Council fleet. Welcome to the Sol System. EM Ambassador Elena Torres speaking for the Free Alliance of Independent Worlds. Torvin was confused. There was no such organization in any Council database. Ambassador, you are speaking for a rebellion that will be crushed within hours. Order your ships to stand down immediately. Alina smiled. Admiral, I think there's been a misunderstanding. We're not rebelling against the Council. We're simply choosing not to join it. Behind her words, the true scope of Earth's response became clear. The 200 ship signatures were not just human vessels with alien crews. They were representatives from civilizations throughout the galaxy, species that had been dismissed, ignored, or oppressed by the Council for centuries. The Curran had sent their faster ships, vessels designed for exploration rather than war, but carrying the hopes of a people who remembered what freedom felt like. The Voseth had contributed their engineering expertise, creating hybrid technologies that combined the best innovations from dozens of worlds. The Nexari had brought something even more valuable. They had brought the dreams of species that had spent centuries believing they were powerless. Dr. Sarah Chen, monitoring the situation from her command post on Titan Station, activated the quantum communication network that had taken her 20 years to perfect. Instantly, every ship in the Free Alliance was connected, able to coordinate their actions with a precision that the Council had never seen before. All ships, this is Alliance Command, she broadcast on the secure channel. Begin Phase 3. What happened next made Fleet Admiral Torvin question everything he thought he knew about warfare. Instead of adopting defensive positions or attempting to match the Council's battle formations, the Alliance ships began to do something unprecedented. They started talking. Captain James Mitchell, commanding the hybrid vessel New Horizon, opened communication channels not just to other Alliance ships, but to individual vessels in the Council fleet. Council ship Retribution, this is Captain Mitchell of the New Horizon. Did you know that your crew includes 3 species whose homeworlds were strip-mined by Council contractors in the last decade? The message was not sent to the ship's command structure. Dr. Chen's quantum communication system could reach individual crew members directly, bypassing the chain of command that the Council relied on to maintain control. Similar messages went out to hundreds of Council ships simultaneously, not threats or demands, but information. Questions that many crew members had never been allowed to ask. On the Council destroyer, Vigilance, a young Alteron engineer named Kess received a message directly to his personal communicator. Did you know that the Alteron colonies in the Vega sector requested permission to develop clean energy technology 12 years ago? The request was denied because it might compete with Council energy cartels. Your people are still using polluting power sources because the Council preferred profit to progress. These were not lies or propaganda. They were facts, carefully researched and documented by human intelligence services over decades of patient observation. Alina Torres and her diplomatic teams had not just built relationships with forgotten species, they had also been documenting the Council's failures and injustices. Fleet Admiral Torvin tried to maintain communication discipline, but the Alliance's quantum network was unlike anything Council technology could counter. The messages kept coming, reaching every ship, every crew member, with information that the Council's propaganda machine had spent centuries suppressing. On the bridge of the Dominion, Torvin's communication officer looked up with confusion. "Sir, I'm receiving reports from throughout the fleet. Crew members are asking questions about their mission parameters. Some ships are reporting morale issues." Torvin had never heard those words before. In 4 centuries of Council rule, military morale had never been an issue. Crews followed orders because they had never been given any reason to question them. But Alina Torres was not finished with her message. From the flagship of the Free Alliance, she opened a general communication channel that reached every ship in both fleets. "People of the galaxy," she began, her words translated into 300 different languages simultaneously. "Today marks the first time in 4 centuries that anyone has said no to the Galactic Council. We want everyone to see what happens when free people stand together." What followed was not a battle in any traditional sense. The Alliance ships did not attack the Council fleet. Instead, they demonstrated something far more dangerous to the Council's power. They showed that resistance was possible. The current ships, with their beautiful designs and peaceful crews, positioned themselves between the Council, fleet, and Earth. They were not there to fight. They were there to witness. If the Council wanted to destroy humanity, they would have to do it in front of representatives from 200 different worlds. The Vosath vessels activated recording systems that would broadcast everything that happened to hidden networks throughout the galaxy. The Council controlled official communication channels, but they had never suspected that the irrelevant species had been building their own information networks for decades. The Nexari ships began transmitting something even more subversive: philosophy. Their crews sent out discussions about freedom, democracy, and the right of all sentient beings to determine their own destiny. Ideas that the Council had tried to suppress were suddenly spreading through both fleets simultaneously. Admiral Kane, watching from his command center, saw the Council fleet's formation beginning to waver. Individual ships were no longer maintaining perfect positions. Communication traffic between Council vessels had increased dramatically, much of it on unofficial channels. "It's working," reported Commander Park. "Council fleet discipline is breaking down. They're not used to having their crews think for themselves." But the real message was yet to come. Alina Torres activated the final phase of Earth's response, a complete broadcast of the Council's ultimatum and humanity's rejection, sent simultaneously to every civilized world in the galaxy. For the first time in 4 centuries, ordinary citizens throughout Council space heard their government's threats spoken aloud. They learned that Earth had been ordered to surrender its democracy. They learned that the choice had been submission or destruction. And they learned that, for the first time in galactic history, someone had chosen a third option: resistance. The broadcast included something else: testimony from the 200 species that stood with humanity. One by one, representatives from forgotten worlds spoke about their experiences under council rule. They talked about resources seized, technologies confiscated, and dreams abandoned. The current ambassador spoke about the mining companies that had poisoned his world's oceans. The Vosath chief engineer described how her people's innovations had been stolen and used to benefit council member worlds while her own people received nothing. The Nexary philosopher read from the list of ideas that had been banned by council censors. These were not conquests or rebellions that could be dismissed as military actions. These were testimonies from ordinary people who had been harmed by the very system that the council claimed brought peace and prosperity to the galaxy. Fleet Admiral Torvin found himself in an impossible position. His fleet was intact and ready to fight, but the enemy was not attacking. Instead, they were doing something much worse. They were talking, and throughout his fleet, his crews were listening. "Admiral," his communication officer reported, voice uncertain, "I'm receiving requests from 17 different ships. They're asking for clarification of mission parameters. Some crews are requesting to speak with their species representatives on the council." Torvin had never encountered anything like this. His training covered every form of military resistance, but no one had ever taught him how to fight an idea. On Earth, Alina Torres delivered the final part of humanity's message. She did not address the council fleet or even the galactic government. Instead, she spoke directly to the billions of ordinary citizens throughout council space who were watching the broadcast. "People of the galaxy," she said, "today you have seen that the council's power depends on everyone believing they have no choice. But you do have a choice. You can choose to think for yourselves. You can choose to question what you've been told. You can choose to dream of something better." The broadcast ended, but its effects rippled across the galaxy in ways that the council could not control or contain. On worlds throughout their territory, citizens began asking questions that had not been spoken in centuries. Why did their governments need the council's permission to make basic decisions? Why were certain technologies forbidden? Why were some ideas too dangerous to discuss? Fleet Admiral Torvin received new orders from High Regent Vexter: destroy the human fleet immediately. But when he tried to give the command, something unprecedented happened. His own crew hesitated. "Sir," his tactical officer said slowly, "scanners show no hostile actions from the Alliance fleet. They appear to be ... waiting." Torvin looked at the tactical display. The Alliance ships were indeed just waiting, positioned to defend Earth, but making no aggressive moves. If he attacked now, he would be the aggressor, destroying peaceful ships in front of witnesses from 200 different worlds for 4 centuries. The Council had maintained power by making resistance seem impossible. They had made sure that anyone who opposed them appeared to be the aggressor, the troublemaker, the threat to galactic peace. But humanity had turned that strategy on its head. They had made the Council into the aggressors, while positioning themselves as defenders of freedom and democracy. If Torvin attacked now, he would prove everything the Alliance had said about Council tyranny. And his own crew was beginning to understand that Alina Torres opened one final communication channel. This one directed personally to Fleet Admiral Torvin. "Admiral, your fleet is welcome to remain in our system as long as you wish. You can observe our society, meet our people, and see for yourself how democracy works. We have nothing to hide." It was the most subversive invitation in galactic history. The Council maintained power by controlling information, by making sure their citizens never saw alternatives to their system. Alina was offering to let Council military personnel see exactly what they were fighting against. Admiral Kane, monitoring the situation, watched as individual council ships began requesting permission to approach human stations, not to attack or intimidate, but to visit. The Free Alliance had delivered their message, and it was spreading throughout the galaxy faster than the Council could contain it. The message was simple but revolutionary. Resistance was possible. Freedom was an option, and no one had to face their oppressors alone. High Regent Vexter, watching the crisis unfold from his palace on Centralis, realized that the Council had been outmaneuvered completely. They could still destroy the human fleet, but doing so would only prove that everything the Alliance had said was true. For the first time in 4 centuries, the Galactic Council faced a problem they could not solve with threats or force. They faced an idea whose time had come, that all sentient beings deserved the right to determine their own destiny. The Council had made their threat, Earth had delivered their message, and the galaxy would never be the same again. Asterisk.